guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. This is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. You know, one of you viewers sent me an email that said, "Hey, check out this interview with I think it's Katie Couric at ABC News." I'm going to put it's a 7-minute video about the AI, the artificial intelligence, in some of the new female robotics that are coming out, and it's kind of interesting because some guys kind of like the idea of having a synthetic person to fool around with. For me personally, that's not my thing. I still fall into the uncanny valley where I look at them and I'm actually a little uncomfortable. Like, I just don't find that I like looking at them. And they look like a really, really nice mannequin to me. But the interesting thing is that they said 1 in 4 guys would consider having this as a companion at some point. And in the video, you'll see that they kind of, it acts like a little bit like your phone's assistant, where you can push a button and talk to it and it'll reply. But it sounds very robotic. It's kind of like a phone assistant. And I started thinking about this and I said, you know, what would make something like this, I think, viable to the point where women really might be, or even maybe guys, if they made a male one that was really good, what would be a replacement for somebody in your life if this was the direction you were going to go? And I said, you know, for me personally, I find that I very rarely miss companionship or I miss somebody around. I can spend months really without any human contact, and I'm fine with that. I don't know what it is. I just don't seem to be bothered. But one thing I do notice is that the longer I go without interacting with people, the less music I listen to when I'm working on my bus or I'm working around the house, and the more podcasts I listen to, or the more YouTube videos I listen to, that I find I like hearing other people talk, other people having a conversation. Even if it's not to me, if it's about a topic that I find interesting and I can listen to a couple of people talk to each other, I can almost pretend like I'm an interested observer sitting in the room. Not that I literally pretend, but you kind of feel like, well, I get to listen into this really cool conversation. And then once you start thinking about what they're talking about, and it gives your mind places to go, and it gives you interesting things to think about. So I said, what would be a companion, or what would be something that I would be interested in seeing, and where would that actually become a point to where we maybe leave other human beings behind to where we don't feel lonely? Now, I don't know if you've seen any of the Iron Man movies. Jarvis, the assistant that he has in his helmet, or when he's trying to build the different Iron Man suits, when he's talking to Jarvis and he says, "Oh, do this and tell me what you think about this," and Jarvis says, "Oh, I picked red and gold because I think they're really good colors," and he says, "Oh, okay, I'll go for it." It's almost like he's talking with another person. Another really good movie that I think represents it even better is if you've seen the movie Her, or even like Ex Machina. If you've seen Ex Machina, that's another really good example. So the movie Her with Scarlett Johansson and what's the actor's name? Joaquin Phoenix. That one's a good one. Ex Machina is a good one, and of course Jarvis from Iron Man. But you get the idea, right? That you can have a natural conversation with them, and it's like talking to another human being. And they talk back, and they understand nuance, and they understand humor, and they understand jokes, and they understand when you're not in a good mood, and it becomes a sounding board that you can talk to. If you think about most marriages after, say, the first several years, when kind of the physicality of it slides off, really all you have at that point is kind of friendship and someone to talk to and someone to spend time with. I mean, when you're out with your guy friends, you enjoy yourself. Why? You're not in physical contact with them, but you're having interesting conversation, and they come up with ideas that you might, that they initiate a conversation, such as, "Hey man, have you ever been out to Arizona?" "No, I haven't." "Oh man, I was thinking I'd love to go see the Grand Canyon someday," and so on and so forth, right? Very organic conversation. I think when AI gets to the point where it becomes almost as if you're talking to another person and having that interaction, when you couple that with a lifelike simulator that blinks, that turns its head, that smile, but it has to look natural for me at least. That smiles, that it doesn't sound so robotic. I think you'll hit a point where I think almost every relationship institution would fall apart at that point, because then as a guy you've got, say, something that looks like a person, someone that if you so inclined can take clothes off and lay it down on the bed, and then if it were at least be able to perform somewhat, although depending on the girls that you've dated in the past, just kind of laying there, I've had those relationships as well, so maybe that might not be too different. But then be able to have an interesting conversation and talk about theology, or if you're talking about electronics or voltage and amperage, like I'm out on my bus now putting in my solar or whatever, and you can say, hey, for a 20 or for a 3,000 watt inverter at 12 volts, how many amps do I need? And she could say, well, according to blah, 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 you'll need a 250 amp lines. And you say, okay, great, thanks. No problem. Why are you thinking of, and having that natural thing? I think that would be awesome. So watch the video that I've put down below, and I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on, because this, for me, it just doesn't work for me. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on what do you think of the synthetic replacement for the physicality of someone that you might be interested in just for a physical kind of thing, right? How many of you guys are into that now? Number two, if it came with an AI that was very much or exactly like a real person, which would you prefer? A physical person that's 100% physical, or an AI that's 100% AI? In other words, it sounded like you were talking to your best friend in the room, or somebody that could have a very one-on-one interaction. Or would you, again, prefer, I don't need that conversation at all. I'd rather have something that looked and acted 100%, not acted, but like someone that couldn't talk and someone that couldn't respond to you, but could move and looked 100% like a person. I'm kind of curious to see which way you go, because for me personally, if it would be like it's 100% a woman, but she can't talk, she can't listen, she can't understand what you're saying as far as a conversation. But if you said, hey, go over there, strip, jump into bed, whatever, she could do that, and it would feel and look like a human being. That would be completely physical. And then you have the other direction, which would be, it could be a box. It could look like this. But it'd sit there, and if you talk to it, it had 100% real emotion, and it acted like there was another human being that was your best friend on the other end of that line, and you could tuck it in your pocket and take it with you all the time, and it'd be like having a friend that you could talk to and have a real natural conversation. I hope this is making sense. But when I started thinking about this, I said, I think I'd rather have the person that I could have an interesting conversation with and discuss theology, and they could look up things online for me and could make a phone call for me. If I said, hey, call the local, truck dealer, I want to look and see if they have a whatever on the lot. And she'd say, oh, yeah, okay, just a second. And she does that, and then so on and so forth. Do you guys follow what I'm saying? I know this is kind of a different video, but it just took me down this road of where, if you could make 100% look like a real person, acted like a real person, and it was a real person, I think we'd all take that, because it'd always be honest with you. It'd never hurt, it'd never lie, it'd never cheat, it'd never steal anything from you, and it could have the human interaction like a person, but a person that was solely dedicated to you, and it looked and felt like a real person. I have to imagine everybody in the world would want one of those. But if you couldn't have that, and you had to separate it by either 100% physically perfect or 100% emotionally and real, like person that you were talking to, right? And could have deep conversations and interesting going that way. Which way would you choose if you could only choose one or the other? For me, I would choose the conversation and the interesting topics and that kind of thing, because of maybe at this age, I just don't feel the need to have a physical thing anymore. And no, if you went back to when I was 23 or 24, it would have definitely been 100%. Like, I'm fine if it looks like a real woman and feels like a real woman and at least performs in some like a real woman, and then I could just, it would jump in the shower and clean itself off and then quietly walk into a closet. I'd 100% take that. I'd definitely take that. But now at my age, I think I'd rather have interesting conversations And whether it was, I mean, I'd probably choose a female just because, I don't know, it'd be more interesting to talk to and probably a nicer voice to listen to. But I think I would go that way. And I wouldn't even need it to be romantic. Even if it was a Jarvis from Iron Man, that would be a great conversation and really cool. And I think that would break up me feeling alone, where the other physicality portion, I'd still feel like I was alone. I'd just feel like I'd have a really cool, like, artificial thing to have a little bit of fun with. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I'm really curious to hear what you say. It just struck me, and I thought maybe this would be a fun topic to hear what you guys have to say and how your minds think, because we all think different ways, and sometimes you guys come up with some pretty interesting ideas. So I'd love to hear from you guys. If you want to support my work, links are below as always. But the best way you can support me is like, comment, share. Anything that you donate to me directly this month is going to a group of doctors and nurses that are making reusable items for their protection as they battle the bug, and that can be sterilized and reused and so on and so forth. I'm going to leave that link down below as well. Guys, I'll leave it there. This is Better Bachelor. I'm Joker. And let me know what you would think. Would you take a complete mental AI, or would you take a complete physical AI? And which one and why? And if you can't put them together and only choose one, which one would it be?